What's it like?
What's what like?
I never had anybody die.
Scary.
It's a new thriller in theaters today with a haunting new perspective. The movie is called Presence, and it follows a family home tormented by a supernatural entity. But as you can see here, the twist is that you see this through the eyes of the ghost. Lucy Liu, Julia Fox, Chris Sullivan star. Presence makes its presence known in theaters today. And we have, this always bodes well, when we have both Eli and Jackson here. Stand back. They will make their presence felt. Nice to see you both on all of this. The one thing I left out in introducing the movie, and I want to start right there, is the excitement is about who's behind this. This is director Steven Soderbergh, Eli. So why don't we start there?
So I think he's such an interesting filmmaker because he is voracious, right? From Ocean's 11 to Behind the Candelabra to Contagion to Solaris, like he's always looking for new genres, and this, as far as I can tell, is the first time he's playing around with something which is kind of horror or horror adjacent. So certainly a thriller, and certainly as you described, if I said this story, okay, there's this family and they move into a new house and there's a father and mother and there's these two teenagers and the mother is kind of obsessed with the son and he's an all-star on the swim team, but the daughter, Chloe, has been through kind of a rough patch. She lost a friend, might have been an accident, might have been an overdose, and she has been very much kind of marked by that experience. So one of the first things we hear, she meets her brother's friend named Ryan. This guy gives us some kind of odious vibes, but he asks her, what's it like when you lose someone? Let's take a little listen to what she says.
The world cracks apart. You fall into this hole. And the sides are mud, and you can't get out.
So we are seeing everything in this film from the POV, the point of view of the presence, this entity, something that is watching, that is listening, and choosing which part of the stories we are going to see because of its own interest. But it's very interested in Chloe. He's already making glances, but we're gonna get there. Okay. He's very interested in Chloe. Things in her room start to move. Stuff falls off the shelf. Chloe has had it. Chloe goes to her family and tells them what she's experiencing, and it looks like this.
First, I just sensed it, and then things moved.
Moved?
Yes.
What things?
A lot of things. I saw it.
You saw it? You saw things move?
I saw the aftermath. And there's a feeling I get, and sometimes it's really, really strong.
What feeling?
Agoraphobia.
I don't think I know that word. What does that mean?
It's the fear of being forgotten or ignored, and I can feel it. It's here, in the house.
Oh, for Christ's sake, seriously, what the?
So you start to get a sense of the dynamics, right? Brother doesn't seem to give a damn. The father's very concerned. The mother, Lucy Liu, is indifferent. And remember, at the same time, we're seeing that because we're seeing through the eyes of the present. So that is kind of the premise.
Okay.
Now, I will allow, I've been hearing grumbles, I've been hearing, some issues.
Well, I will say my grumble was, I thought you weren't going to say that the presence is interested. I thought you were going to say presence is interesting. And I was like, not so much. I'm sorry. Also, I'll just caveat this. There's maybe a little bit of false marketing there, advertising, where it's advertising as scary, spooky. This may be a bit of a long leg scenario. You're not going to be scared. Not necessarily the worst
I thought
things.
It was very intense. I was like...
Well, the thing is that this presence and this POV is something that this movie is obviously in a title being marketed as. It's something that is an interesting conceit, but when we saw better maybe in the Canadian movie In a Violent Nature, Skinamarink, another Canadian movie that did something very interesting, I, though, would compare this first to The Revenant, the movie I rewatched kind of recently. That entire movie is also, you are the perspective, you are the one watching, but that conceit is deeper in that it has all of these issues about how America and Americans view First Nations people and whose stories get to be told. And that's something that builds out after you watch and think about it. This is a gimmick that the more you think about it, the smaller it gets.
But I'm trying to figure out what the presence is. I'm trying to figure out who is lurking and watching with that family.
We find it out immediately, and then the movie rests on the ability for you to tell your friends, oh, this is a movie in which the ghost is yada, yada, yada. And as David Lynch said, once you explain a film, it gets smaller unless you're a poet. I think this film rests on the ability to be explained.
Bringing in Lynchian wisdom, I can't even believe it. We'll come back to you. That POV, how it was made, and the choice of that. What do you think?
I had a chance to interview Soderbergh, and maybe I'm biased because he told me this story. This was inspired by what he experienced in his Los Angeles home, where his wife saw things kind of flickering. They had a house sitter that thought they saw something in their house, and then they looked into the history of their house, and they learned that a daughter had murdered their mother. And this is Soderbergh's mind, that he hears that and goes, so that would be interesting. What if we had a story about a ghost, and the ghost was in the home, and what would happen if the family moved in? And I think, as a viewer, what's so interesting is you don't have the whole story. So Soderbergh is the ghost, and he's also the cinematographer. He was the guy behind the Steadicam, moving the camera around, and so he had to kind of multitask, because on the one hand, he's making a movie, and he has to think about how it looks, and so you see these beautiful kind of slow-moving wide shots, but also he has to make the camera the personality of the entity. So how is it going to react when things are happening?
Okay, from a filmmaking perspective, is he swinging you over? Because you clearly have strong opinions, young man.
The filmmaking, people may have heard me last week, or maybe it was the week before, when I was being a little bit negative about Nickel Boys, which is a beautiful movie.
Oh, he loves that one, too.
It's a beautiful movie, but it's filmmaking perspective of the same thing, of the first person. I think it made the actors divorced from their scene partners, and it created this disconnect where they were more like, it seemed like they were acting on a stage, a feeling that did not feel organic, did not feel real.
But you think that happened here? Because you have these long takes where people are kind of in the moment?
I do feel that happened here, but a little bit worse. I feel like everyone's acting with a little smirk on their face. There's this older filmmaker, William Castle, who was called like the American answer to Hitchcock, but like we have Hitchcock at home. He's the budget Hitchcock, and he did all these gimmicks and conceits. He had the movie 13 Ghosts, where like you bring these silly glasses in, and if you put the blue color glasses on, you'd see the ghost. The red color you didn't. The Tingler, where you would get scared if you got scared enough.
You're comparing this to the Tingler?
This is all jokey,
as someone who has never seen the Tingler,
I don't necessarily love the gimmick so much. I don't think that it works.
Okay, what about the acting?
I mean, I think, for example, the actor playing Chloe is great. I mean, I think why was really brought in to the family, and like the idea of this is a ghost story wrapped around a family that is kind of crumbling, and you get the sense the father trying to protect the daughter, the indifference of the Lucy Liu character, and how Chloe is kind of getting pulled into the orbit of this guy Ryan. So I thought it was very effective.
To rebut again, there's a movie that's also out this week, Hard Truths by Mike Lee. Now he's getting some flack because he wrote the story, but he had the actors actually come up with the dialogue, because it's about a black family. He himself is white. He didn't necessarily think he'd get that language right.
Okay.
I feel like this movie could have been improved by that, specifically by the young actors. Yeah. There's some lines in here that make my brain hurt. You have a drink for a thirsty man?
Yeah.
Oh
no smoke. Now I will say this is obviously like I think it's a great thriller, and it kind of forces you to lean in as an audience. But the dialogue was evidently written someone closer to my age than Gen Z. I'll give you that.
All right. So final thoughts and ratings, Jackson. You want to start?
I got to be kind of negative. I never loved the conceit gimmicky movie. I'm going pretty low here. 1.5 out of 5. I walked out with a, are we really doing this right now? Man. I'm going to go watch Amelia Perez instead.
Okay. And Eli?
And I watched it for the second time this week, and even though I knew everything that was happening, I was still drawn in, and so I'll give you my rating, and my rebuttal, a little kinder, 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Come back anytime. It's so much fun when you don't like the same movie.
We'll haunt you.
Okay. and Eli mentioned that interview with Steven Soderbergh. That's amazing. 45 minutes, Eli was telling me, during TIFF. So you can read it. It's up on our website now and on the CBC News app. Thank you, guys. Shall we play a little bit more to take a little break?
Sure.
Just to give more of the flavor? This is CBC Morning Live.
You have a presence here. It's trying to figure you out. It's trying to connect to you.
She just stopped breathing. Dead in their own bed. Can you imagine the parents finding her?